What is going on, guys? I'm Consumer Tech Review, and today we're gonna be checking out the Yunzii AK74. This is actually a very interesting keyboard, so let's get right into it. Before we start the video, if at any point during the video you wanna check out this exact same keyboard, there's Amazon links below for the US, UK, Canada, and international links. I do got you guys. Let's jump into it. Okay, so number one thing is they say aluminum frame. Now, as you can see here, that is aluminum. There's some machined edges right there. There's some machined edges right there. However, you flip it over and it's plastic on the bottom. Now, this is not, as you can hear, it's kind of cheaper plastic, which I thought was weird. Like, if you compare this to a Royal Kludge RK84, definitely the RK84 has nicer plastic on the back. You can... All right, now moving on from that, we do have dual stage risers on the bottom, which I definitely like a lot. Nice rubber as well. And then moving up here, we have a USB-C port over on that back left side right there. As you can see, it's right over there. However, unlike the RK84, there is no wireless connectivity at all, so it's just a wired keyboard. But you do get some stuff that something like the RK84 doesn't have, which is stock, nicer keycaps, which let's go into that right now, because this is kind of an interesting part. You get 3 sets of kind of different keycaps, you can see right here. So there's this, which is a pretty popular kind of design. Some people have used it for a bunch of budget keyboards. But as you can see here, the keycaps are PBT and they are definitely thicker than your average budget keycap. They're definitely thicker. They're not some super expensive keycaps. However, they are definitely thicker and do make the sound nicer than a typical stock keyboard. Most budget stock keyboards, I cannot live with the stock keycaps. These I could live with. And then they have this kind of pink theme right here, and it says space for spacebar. I don't know, kind of cool, kind of quirky. If you're into pink, you'll be into that. Let's get all these off. And then boom, just like that, we got kind of a different look to the keyboard right away. Now, all of these keycaps share the same quality, so they're not just like cheaping out on these, which is something that I was a little bit worried about, but no, they're all the same kind of keycaps. So that's the other look, and then this is kind of the more basic clean look. And there is the kind of basic cleaner look. Now around the edges again, this is an aluminum, so it is all this kind of silver colorway. So it does match nicely, and it does look nice and pretty, and in this way it's kind of a cleaner, less kind of accented and stylized keyboard, so it kind of will match most setups. However, we've talked about the keycaps. Now let's get in and really pick apart this keyboard. So a couple things that I do like. Right away, it comes with nice switches. This comes with Gateron switches. You have the choice between Gateron red, blue, brown, black, and then my personal favorite, Gateron yellows right here. Now, the reason that I like the Gateron yellows is because they're an actual nice switch. Like, we can all say Gateron reds are good and fine when they're lubed, yes. However, they're not really up there. They're not ever gonna sound like a really nice custom board. However, Gateron yellows definitely can, and in stock form, they are really, really smooth, a lot smoother than the reds. So yeah, and this keyboard is 95 bucks, which is pretty steep. However, all the switches are the exact same price, which is very nice. All right, so as you can see, these are all the Gateron yellows right here. But I'm not gonna keep you waiting. Here is the sound test of this keyboard. Take a listen. And that is how it sounds, but let's move into that a little bit. Okay, so what you heard was the shift key, the enter key, and the delete key. They're tuned really good and like nice sound, like a really nice sound. They're tuned like really, really good. But the space bar, it sounds pretty good there. However, then you get over to the left side. Now, this is going to be different. This is going to have a lot of differences between each keyboard. So if you buy this keyboard, you might not have it on the left side, it might be on the right side, or it might not be there at all. However, one thing I see right off the bat is these are a little bit wiggly. However, you do a Band-Aid mod, and then probably I would wrap some medical tape around the wire, place those right back in there, probably fix that. However, we're not stopping here. Now that we're here, let's go over what else you get. So you also get this little box right here, and in it, you get 2 switches, probably of the switch that you got. I have the Gateron yellows, obviously, and then they give you a keycap holder, which is not a nice keycap holder. This will scratch all of your keycaps up, so don't use this. I did think that was a little bit weird since they are giving you other keycaps that you're meant to switch off and put different ones on. So that was weird. However, they give you a switch puller because yes, this thing is fully hot swappable with 3 and 5 pin switches right there. So as you can see that, a matte black PCB, and it is fully hot swappable with 3 and 5 pin switches. That's pretty cool. Meaning that if you want to upgrade this thing in the future, you absolutely can, but not stopping there. If you notice something weird right here, this and this, I believe, is exactly the same piece of aluminum. So what actually wraps around the edge and then stops on the case is actually one piece, which is kind of interesting. And then moving on from that, it seems that there is foam in between the PCB and the plate, although it doesn't sound like there's foam in the case, although there still could be. However, we're gonna take this thing apart and actually see. Now that all of those are off, I'm gonna go ahead and unscrew this thing and check it out. Now that all of those screws are off, and there are a ton holding it down, like there are 11 screws holding this thing down. Let's see if we can pop this off. I don't know if it's gonna be as easy as just popping it off, but I'm gonna try. All right, there we go, we're getting it off. Definitely snapped in a little bit. I'm gonna try to not break it. All right, so it took a lot of effort to come off because, believe it or not, that little sticker right there was covering a screw that I missed, and I just snapped it off. That's okay though. There's 11 others, so there's actually 12 screws. But so interesting enough, we got some interesting stuff right here. So right off the bat, there is foam in the case, which that could be a good thing or a bad thing. Bad thing is, it doesn't sound the thickest with the foam in the case, because this piece of plastic, it's kind of like cheap feeling. However, the top is not as cheap feeling. So I don't know, but looking at this, it is what I thought. This whole thing is one solid piece. You then have the PCB screwed onto it with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 screws on the back and all of your hot swappable sockets. Now, look at over here. We can see that right there looks like a plug-in for a battery. So it looks like this PCB can actually have a battery. However, they just didn't include it in this board. But possibly if you wanted to mod it, you could add a battery because there's pins right there for a battery. So that is pretty interesting. All right, so now checking this out, the aluminum on this is not insanely thick, but it is nice that it's aluminum. Now, if you look down here, you will be able to see down the slot. You might not be able to see it as well as me. However, when I looked from here, it was like, okay, there's obviously foam right there, which is impressive. If they put foam on this, we obviously see foam on the bottom case right here. However, not actually foam. If you look down here, there is foam right there. There is 2 little tabs right there, but looking down all the rest of the switch, all the rest of the PCB, there is no foam, there is no dampener between the PCB and the plate. So you don't actually get a PCB and plate dampener, you only get it where that spacebar is, which I am all for. However, for 95 bucks, kind of would have liked that. I would rather have a PCB plate dampener rather than a case dampener, even though like this case dampener doesn't do much. The other interesting thing is we have a cutout right here. It is interesting to me because there's no point to actually having that cut out because the PCB is flat. There's nothing that juts out on the bottom of it. So I think connecting the dots, there is a hookup for a battery, and then there's this slot. I think there's also a version of this that probably maybe has a battery, or maybe they're reusing something from another keyboard that's pretty common in the keyboard industry. So that's actually quite interesting. However, I would say this case is like, it's not up to par, I think. However, if you really like the aluminum look and you want nice-ish keycaps on a stock keyboard, then have really good switches. Like, these are really good switches. However, my overall thoughts, let's put this back together. Number one, I don't really like this design. It's harder than it needs to be to get this thing open. You can see it's kind of hard to put back together as well. I don't really know why they went with this design. Okay. Now it's all back together. All right, now I never even mentioned the cable. It comes with like a nicer, like braided cable. I know this is not the nicest. Obviously, it's not a custom cable. However, it is nicer. But I know it seems like I've been hating on this keyboard a lot, but I actually really like it. The typing feel is really good. The only thing that I don't like is that space bar. But yeah, I mean, that's very solid. It feels good. But there's a couple keyboards in this space. There's the RK84, and then there's the Keychron K2 and the full metal version. Now, the RK84 and the Keychron K2 are basically opposite ends of the spectrum. The Keychron K2 is more of a finished package when you buy it, whereas the RK84 is like a modding ready thing. And in stock form, it's not that great, and the Keychron K2 will absolutely beat it every single day in stock form. The RK84 is like for modding, and it's fantastic for modding, and I've modded it. And this keyboard falls somewhere in the middle. So it has metal, which the RK84 doesn't have, except the RK84 Pro, which I think is not worth it, but that might change in the future. However, in stock form, this has better stabilizers on the Shift, Enter, and Delete key than the Keychron K2, and way better than the RK84. Now that spacebar definitely needs some work. However, this also has better keycaps than the Keychron K2 and the RK84, although the Keychron K2 and the RK84 both have wireless connectivity, and this does not. Now, this has full hot swappability, which most versions of the Keychron K2 don't actually have, where the RK84 does have full hot swappability, but I believe you can't get the Keychron K2 with yellows, and you definitely cannot get the RK84 with nice switches these Gateron yellows are really what make this board something that I actually wanted to put on the channel, because I mean, it feels like a nice keyboard. Now, there are 2 mods that I would do to this and then kind of leave it, or put new keycaps on if you want to. These are actually pretty good just how it is. Now, I would do a silicone mold for the case, because this case, this thing needs a silicone mold. It needs something really sturdy. Foam is not gonna cut it for this. You need something a lot thicker. You could do butyl rubber, but a silicone mold would be the absolute way to go. Very easy to do. And number 2, all you gotta do, take off the stabilizers, and I wouldn't even Holy mod it. I would just wrap some medical tape or a Band-Aid around that wire, put it right back in, lube it, put it right back in. That's all I would do, and it would probably fix this problem, because these stabilizers, you can hear, they're already really good. It's just this one had a little bit of a mistake, probably with lubing, maybe something like that. But we never even talked about RGB, which you can see in the B-roll does look really nice. You got Perch key RGB, anything you want, obviously on a keyboard this expensive, you're gonna have that. But yeah, overall, do I recommend this? If you are the specific person that wants to mod your keyboard a little bit, not a ton, you don't wanna have to buy keycaps because you're paying for keycaps and then throwing them away because they're trash, this may be a really good option for you. If you want a keyboard that's like just polished and you don't have to do anything to it, it's not gonna be as good as this would be if you modded it just a little bit, then go with the Gateron K2. If you want a keyboard that you just wanna completely mod and basically just use it as a base, go with the RK84. This is a good middle ground that has really good switches stock. It feels solid, and the only thing that I'm feeling right now is the case that needs something in the back of it more than foam. But besides that, it's really good. You got full aluminum up here, which you can sand down and paint if you want to. Yeah, I mean, overall, I am really impressed with this thing. 95 bucks is a lot of money, but again, it falls perfectly between the Gateron K2 and the RK84. It's more expensive, however, it gives you more than them, because you got the nicer switches, you get the nicer keycaps, and you do get that aluminum. But yeah, again, if you want to check out this exact same keyboard, there's Amazon links below for the US, UK, Canada, and international links. I do got you guys. But if you guys enjoyed this video and it helped you out, help me out and throw a like below. And if you enjoy modding videos or keyboard reviews, trying to figure out which keyboard you guys want to get, I do a ton of those videos to help you find that stuff out. So please consider subscribing below. But this was Consumer Stack Review, and I'll see you guys in the next video.